So the first step in my workflow is to remove all the small dots and spots using the spot healing brush tool. And when I can, I always like to work on a separate layer. So with my background layer selected, of course, I'm going to hit Command J and it's going to duplicate that. And I'm going to rename this Retouch. And it's on this layer that we'll be doing most of our alterations. And that's how we can switch it off and see what we've done and how much we still have to do. First of all, we need to get onto our spot healing brush tool. Now you can hit J to get onto this submenu, and although we're currently already on the spot healing brush tool, if you happen to be on something like, say, the patch tool, then what you have to do is just hit Shift J and you'll cycle through that submenu until you get onto this spot healing brush tool, which is this one right here. Now to zoom in on the area that you want to work on, just hold down Command Spacebar, click and drag over the area, and that area will automatically zoom in and fill the page. And you'll see that there are lots of subtle areas and not so subtle areas that we need to work on or remove. Basically, lots of tiny little dots here, which are a little bit distracting. Nothing major. However, if this was on a billboard, you'd probably definitely want to remove these just to make sure that anything that the eye is attracted to or drawn towards, if it's not an integral part of the image, then you probably want to remove it. And just to give you a quick demonstration of how the spot healing brush tool works, I think we'll use this freckle down here as a little demonstration point. So I'll Command Spacebar, click and drag just over that little freckle, a little bit too close. To control the size of my brush, whether it be the spot healing brush tool, the clone tool, or any other tool for that matter, you just use the bracket keys. Now the left bracket key reduces the size of the brush, and the right bracket key increases the size of the brush. So we'll just reduce the size of the brush to roughly the same size as the spot that we're trying to remove. And the way the spot healing brush tool works is when you brush over the area that you're trying to remove, it samples the surrounding pixels outside of that area and uses that sample to replace the area that you're painting over. So essentially the texture remains the same. So I'll give you a demonstration right now. So I'll brush over this freckle here, let go, and it sampled the surrounding pixels and replace that freckle with an example of those pixels. So the way I normally like to work is I normally like to start at the very top of the image or the model and work my way down. So I'm going to hit Command 0 to fit the image to window. And once again, Command Spacebar, click and drag over Rebecca's face. I'll get a little bit closer. And another handy zoom tip is just to zoom out in increments, just hold down Command and click on the minus symbol. And you can see that we're panning out. And to zoom back in, you do the opposite. You hold down the Command key and hit the plus symbol. Just like that. And now we can start removing all these little spots which are a little bit distracting. Now I'm not too worried about the texture of the pores on the cheeks here. Mainly I'm worried about just the things that my eye is attracted to, such as these freckles, little spots here and there, earring holes, and things like that. So all we do is run our spot healing brush tool over these little spots, making sure that anything that our eye is drawn towards, and if it isn't integral to the image, then it can probably safely be removed. Now to scroll, I'm just holding down the spacebar key and click and dragging. Scroll over to the arm. It's not too much that's going wrong with the arm here. Now areas like this, now you can have a go using the spot healing brush tool to remove areas like this, but because it's sampling the surrounding area, and because we have these lines here which are so close to, say, this patch in the middle that we would like to get rid of, they can cause a bit of a problem. So if I was to, for example, run my brush over it right now and let go, it's creating a few problems here. So what I'll do is I'll Command Z to undo that, and I'll get back to that and get rid of it with the patch tool a little bit later on. Scroll over to the left arm here. There's a very marked patch here underneath the arm, but we can get rid of that a little bit later on once again with the patch tool. The spot healing brush tool is very good for getting rid of fine lines and stretch marks and things like that. Just like that. Now coming over to the tummy here, we have quite a lot of freckles and moles that we can get rid of. But when it comes to these fine hairs which are all over the tummy, we probably don't have to worry about them with the, although we can get rid of them with the spot healing brush tool. There are so many of them and it'll take forever. So I'll be showing you a way of getting rid of all of those using a skin smoothing technique a little bit later on. Okay, moving towards the legs. Command minus just to pan out a little bit to get a better overall view. A few little fine lines here, so I'll increase my brush size just a tad and run over them. Now there's a big bruise right here, and we're not going to get rid of that with the spot healing brush tool. We'll get rid of that a little bit later on with the patch tool. Now we've come to the lower part of the legs here, and there are lots of little paws which are standing out. Now I'm just getting rid of the more obvious spots and dots with my current tool. However, once again, as with the fine hairs that are on the tummy, I'll be using a skin smoothing technique to remove all these paws in a later tutorial. Scrolling down to the feet, and there are a few lines and spots. And that's probably it for all the spots. So Command 0 to fit your image to window, just like this. And that's how you can get rid of all these tiny little spots and blemishes using the spot healing brush tool.